I don't think that most people are lazy. I think that most people are resisting a path of life that they don't really want. And that is expressed as laziness.
Yes.
And if they were to just give themselves permission to kind of pursue or pay attention to things that naturally interested them, they wouldn't be bored anymore.
Right.
They would go all into that thing.
Yeah.
They just don't have permission to be able to do that.
Doing odd end, we're partners in a commercial real estate firm, man. So Beautiful. I'm a partner, and Ben is.
I'm a partner now.
You're a colleague. You're a colleague of mine. Yes, you are a partner. You run the show. But anyways, we've been sitting here doing some work leading up to this, and we know how it is. It's always last second. The mics have been right here, everything, and then we're about to get on. And it's like, oh shit, where are we? What the hell are we doing? Yeah. So,
and we're playing. We said this yesterday. We're playing hurt today. So we usually have a third co-host as well. He also played in the NFL, and he actually just came down, was diagnosed with COVID. So. Luckily, he's feeling fine, but obviously he can't be around us right now.
Makes sense.
So you did give Ryan the gist of the show.
He's good, and we're recording. So whenever you want to go,
all right.
go.
Well, hey, Ryan, look, man, I'm excited to have you on, Ryan, for one reason in particular is I'm a serial entrepreneur. And have been for a number of years. So I played 14 years in the Cowboys and then went on to ESPN as an analyst. And I was late into the game. But once I started and started doing my research and was so enthralled about how these companies are being set up, I was like, man, this is heaven. And I've seen companies start, fail, but you always see certain, these, entrepreneurs go through so much. And then through that process, when we started talking about having you on, I was excited, man, because I want to pick your brain. And there's so many people that ask me questions about being an entrepreneur, but I'm still a baby in this, man. So, let's go back. I want to tell your story and go all the way back, man, for where you grew up. How you came up, mom, dad. Give us a little the family dynamics and how you came up.
Well, first of all, Darren, Ben, it's great to see you guys. Thank you so much for having me on. This is a privilege and a thrill. And it's kind of ironic we start with that question, Darren, because over my entrepreneurial career, I've developed a little bit of an acquaintanceship with Gary Vaynerchuk. He's spoken at our events a couple times. We've had wine together a couple times. And the last time I saw him, he said something that was so interesting to me. He said, both of us have this background of wishing we had become professional sports players. And he wanted to be the quarterback of the Jets. I wanted to play first base for the Cleveland Indians. And he says, aren't you so glad that you didn't become an athlete? And I was like, no, what are you talking about? And he says, but athletes have to quit at 40.
Yeah. Or before.
It was such a cool reframe of this idea of sometimes as an entrepreneur, you feel like you're behind because I'm 33. Yep. I've been at this game for, my goodness, 15 years. I started when I was 18. And I still feel like I'm just cracking in. Like I'm just figuring it out. I'm just getting good enough at this to be able to call myself a capitalist, to be a successful entrepreneur. And I've had a lot of successes and failures along the way. It is a bumpy roller coaster along the way. And to know that you want something for so long, since I was literally 9, 10, 11 years old, and to be cracking that in my early 30s, sometimes can make you feel behind. But the truth is, you can play this game till you're 85.
Yeah.
You can play this game, and we're all probably going to live to be 100. Like lifespans are increasing on average.
Speak for yourself. Speak for yourself, brother.
We've been hitting the head quite a bit.
Way too many times.
I don't know if we'll make it to 100.
But we could be playing this game for several more decades.
Yes.
And when you realize that this is a game you can get better and better and better at every year, that gets really exciting. But But for me, my first business, 5 years old, going door to door, trying to sell hand-drawn pictures on computer paper. I sold 5.
That's pretty good, actually.
Well, 2 of them were my dad who bought them, and he provided all of the crayons and computer paper. So 100% profit margins.
Yes. That's step 1, right? Don't pay for anything.
Minimize costs.
Yeah.
But I had the bug really early. I remember when I was 7 years old, my mom bought me this magazine that was called Zillions, and it was consumer reports for kids. And it was like young kids, 12 and under, who were reviewing toys and then talking about things like what they were doing to shovel snow during winters to make $5. It was that kind of a magazine. And I remember this one article about this kid saying that he was investing in stocks and he had made $30. And I remember one morning I said, hey, mom, I want to invest in stocks. And I thought for sure she was going to say, no, that's a scam. Don't do that. I just thought for sure that was going to be her answer. Right. And instead she says, Ryan, I think that would be a great idea. Oh, and I was like, what? You're going to let me do something like that? And that was the first aha, like the first insight of, okay, like there are legitimate ways to, I wouldn't have even said build wealth at the time, but like there's different paths. And I started like reading, investing in business books at 11, 12, my early teens. I just had the bug. But where it really got serious was I went to school at Indiana Wesleyan University, the middle of the cornfields. And we did not have a football team. You went there if you wanted to be a nurse or a pastor. And I thought I was going to be a pastor. And like, truth be told, gentlemen, I was doing it out of what we might call like Christian guilt. Right. Like, I got to do this thing in order to make God happy. Right. But underneath it all, I wanted to be an entrepreneur. So while I was studying to be a pastor, I was building websites and learning things like search engine optimization and monetizing websites, while everybody else was hanging out on Saturday nights. Right. I'm in my dorm learning how to program websites.
No, let me ask you this. Was this I grew up and it was, for me, it was, I wasn't an entrepreneur. I was going to be an athlete, but I was an inner city kid. So the hustle for me was the thirst of money. What was the hustle for you? What was the reasoning you wanted to be this entrepreneur? Was it money? Was it ego? Was it, what was it that drove you?
Great question.
For a long time, I thought it was the desire for money. And I think it's easy to fall into that trap of thinking it's about money. Like, the truth is we want something from the money. Yeah. There's something we think the money will give us, and that's really the root. That's the seed of it. And for me, freedom, which means creativity, creating things, expressing things, delivering a message, having the ability to be who you are and to create what you want to create without the limitations of money. You see, have you ever experienced this where there's a project that you're doing for the money and you hate it?
Yes.
And like you
all
just
the time.
resent it?
Yes.
Right. And like, we all have those things that we do to support our lifestyle, but none of us want to do those things for the fun of it. There are other things that we want to do for the sheer experience of it. I love to live in that place. Yeah. And the strange thing is that when you're in that place, money just shows up. Like, people want to work with you. People want to do business with you. Opportunities and investments just seem to flow your way. People want to hire you, and you have your choice about which ones you go to. Now, I didn't know that at a young age, but what I have realized is what I want is that zone of creativity that puts me at choice to do what I want to do, to pursue what it is that I want to do. And I have perceived that the accumulation of money at least gives you a route to that. But the truth is, you can do that now. Yeah. And you can do it through business in a way that just money and wealth and opportunity starts to flow your way.
Yeah. Not to get too, or maybe overthink it too much, but I'm curious, you went to your mother, you said, and said, hey, I want to invest in stocks. And she said, awesome, go for it. What if she had said, that's dumb, don't do that? Do you ever think about where maybe your path would have gone if the first time you put it out there that what you wanted to do, that somebody just shut it down immediately?
The truth is, I probably would have gone back to her in 2 weeks and said, I want to start this other thing. Like, I want to do this. Like, I would have just kept going.
Sure.
But you're right. I remember that as like, I got permission to move forward.
But that just speaks to who you are, though, right? Because some of us, we get that first no and we decide, okay, path's over, it's not for me. Or we get that first bump in the road. It may not be a person saying no. But that just speaks to who you are. It's like, no, this is what I want. I'm going after it no matter what.
There's just like an understanding that you're made for something different, that you want something a little bit different. But I think that bug is in all of us, but expressed differently.
Yeah.
Like I have a natural inclination to be interested in business. I love business. I play Monopoly and I play Madden and franchise mode, and I am like, my brother beats me almost every time, but I've got the most profitable team.
That's right.
You're Jerry Jones.
That's exciting to me.
You are Jerry Jones on Madden, aren't you? Get beat, but you still have the most profitable
mediocre
team.
product for 20 years, but we still make money.
Listen, I'm a Browns fan. We have the biggest international fan base in the world, and we just have our hearts broken. It looks pretty good though.
You know what's really encouraging in what you said there is, and I want you to speak on this as well. Your mother didn't shut the door, and she could have easily, like Ben said, "Hey, Ryan, go do something else."
Yes,
but she allowed there to be a pathway for you. I mean, speak to to the relationship you had with your mother and father, and what kind of, were they entrepreneurs growing up? Were they business owners, or how did they approach life as well?
This is the one thing that I say that I recognize that my parents intentionally did for me. Like, I'm a parent now. I have 2 young kids under 5, and there's all kinds of things I didn't see, right? But there's one thing that I noticed and really clung to. My mom was a stay-at-home mom until my parents split, and I was 12 when they split. And that had what we can talk about how that changed things. But my dad was a school teacher for 30 some odd years, like 35 years. And I remember him saying to me once that if he worked his entire life, his entire career, and never spent a dime, that he would make about $1 million. And that reframed a lot for me of how much $1 million was. Like, that's why, like, my central focus at capitalism.com is helping people build 7-figure businesses, because there's like something magical that happens in the brain when you cross that $1 million threshold.
Yeah.
But my parents did this very intentionally. They said, we were always careful to not try to steer you in the direction that we wanted you to go, but where you showed a natural interest. And they said they picked that up in a parenting class somewhere. I sure think it's fantastic advice. And it's the one thing that I hope to pass on to my kids, which is, I don't hope my kids are entrepreneurs. I don't hope that my kids are entrepreneurial. I hope that my kids pursue whatever interest that they show a natural interest in. And I'll encourage that. So in 6th grade, I was typing a lot on the computer using the hunt and peck method. Right?
I'm still doing that.
And my dad in 6th grade bought me this PC typing tutor game. And so I went into like 7th grade typing 90 words a minute. And what that did is, my computer teacher was like, well, you don't need to be in the typing 101 class. Let's put you in the HTML private path. HTML was this brand new language for programming websites at the time, which is what I took to be able to program my first website, which ended up paying for college and the foundation of my career. And so that little insight from my dad of, we're going to encourage whatever you want to pursue, led him to, on an impulse, buy me this typing tutor game, which, as weird as it is, completely changed my life because it allowed me to pursue what I wanted to pursue more easily.
So it sounds like at an early age, you were an extremist, and you haven't changed much in your way of, like, you see, what you see is run through it, go get it. Is that an accurate assessment of who you are?
I say it slightly differently, which is, if I'm passionate about something or excited about something, I want to milk that sucker. I want to enjoy every ounce of it. Darren, it's funny you use the word run through it, because I am not wired that way to like do hard stuff. Like I had that time in my life where it was like, let's do a Tough Mudder and let's like do the let's get tough. Let's David Goggins this.
Right.
And I'm not in that mode of life anymore. It's like, I want to follow my excitement. I want to follow my natural interests and impulses. And I'm the type of person that when I've got a real interest, I go real deep into that thing. It consumes me. I can't think of anything more enjoyable than being fully immersed in what it is that excites you. So it is not the mindset of, I want to run through this. Let's get through these obstacles. Let's do what's hard. I actually want to do what's exciting because that's the life I want. Yeah. And it just has occurred to me recently in the last few years that when I do that, I also like make a lot of money and I also create impact and change because it's how I feel most like myself and the natural person.
Man, I just got so much out of that, what you just said, because I have not fully immersed myself in anything. It's like I felt like I'm a jack of all trades. And if I continue down this road of which I'm trying now to get more immersed in a couple of things that I'm doing, but I'm there right there. What you just said is that, you know, when you have all these things that you want to get accomplished, but you're not fully all the way in, then you never really find that safe zone, that zone of where you feel like, man, this is my passion. I found my passion. This is what I want to do. And this is what brings me joy. I just haven't gotten there yet. So,
well, and the other thing about that, I've actually never heard it put the way you put it right there. Meaning the way you hear it mostly is the hard work. That's a badge of honor. And you didn't say it that way. No. You said, I want to chase, I don't seek the hard work. I seek what I'm passionate and excited about. And that's what gets me the results that I'm after, not just the grind or the hard work.
And the passion is not like the thing you have to find. It is not the thing that you have to pursue. So many people, especially young entrepreneurial people, will say, I want to find my passion. And there is nothing to find. There is no outside thing that is your passion. Like the passion is something that you experience along the journey. It's something that evolves and something that is nurtured as you find things that are more like interesting and then exciting. And then it becomes a thing that you're immersed in because it becomes a passion. And Ben, what I've experienced is that when I am fully immersed in that, and it doesn't feel like an obstacle or a challenge, it just so happens that all of those other projects or things that I'm dabbling in, Darren, they find a way to match with the thing that I'm really immersed in. Like I find that person who now can manage that project as a partner. And now I'm even more freed up to do that thing that I really want to be immersed in. Or when I'm doing a podcast or a YouTube video, somebody reaches out and says, I saw you mention that project. So I looked it up and I've got some resources that I think could help with that. But it requires that I'm all in on that thing that I want to be excited about. And then all these other resources just start coming my way that allow me to do those things that I'm still in kind of the interested in phase. I compared it with an employee of mine that I realized that for most of my career, I've been planting seeds. I've been like sprinkling seeds and hoping something would sprout. And I just keep planting seeds. But what I realize now is that a few things are starting to sprout. And rather than planting more seeds, I've got to start watering and nurturing this plant that is starting to sprout. And I know that in time, it's going to become a tree that produces its own fruit that's going to drop off and plant its own seeds. Right. And I won't even have to start new things anymore or think about planting seeds anymore. It's now going to be a thing that's bearing fruit that is going to be growing that for me. And that's where I want to be. I want to be in that thing that I'm so pumped about. And then it goes on to plant other opportunities for me.
Man, I'll tell you what, dude, you're attractive in just the way that you
work
speak.
Out. Thank you.
Well, you're both physically attractive and no, I just mean like the way you're talking right now is just, that's an attractive quality and people are drawn to that. I can easily see that you are passionate about this and excited about it. I do got a question/theory that I haven't really fully thought through. I'm just curious and I'm verbalizing here. I wonder what your thoughts are. And it's along these lines. The theory of maybe we don't have a work ethic issue. maybe we just have a passion issue.
Correct.
Okay.
Most of us are not lazy. We're bored.
Okay. So that was my theory. I needed you to validate it. Continue.
I 100% agree. I don't think that most people are lazy. I think that most people are resisting a path of life that they don't really want. And that is expressed as laziness.
Yes.
And if they were to just give themselves permission to kind of pursue or pay attention to things that naturally interested them, they wouldn't be bored anymore.
Right.
They would go all into that thing.
Yeah.
They just don't have permission to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And so they're procrastinating and resisting whatever it is that they don't want to do, which in some aspects is a really good and healthy thing.
Sure. Well, to that point, I mean, I think about jobs I've had, just odd jobs that I didn't enjoy, and you kind of cut corners. You do just enough to get by. But when it's something, man, that I love, it doesn't even feel like work. Like I can lose myself because I just love it so much.
Yes.
And so I'm glad that you said that. It validates my thoughts on if we could just all find what that is that we're passionate about, we probably wouldn't have the work ethic issues that we do.
I 100% agree.
There you go.
That's when
episode over.
You win, huh? Yeah.
When I'm working with young entrepreneurs, the thing that my message comes back to over and over and over again is, what do you want? Because so many of them go on this path and then they get stuck because it becomes about nurturing the profit or nurturing the growth of revenue, which is all great. Like, you got to have profit to stay in business. But when you start trading the excitement for the short-term profit, you end up resenting the business. And it becomes really hard to grow that thing to mid 7 figures or building a business that you can sell, because you end up having this clunky clunk monster of a project that is making you work 12 to 16 hour days and you don't even like it anymore. And then you're bottlenecked from growing that business into something that really excites you. Whereas if you start from the vision or the problem you want to solve or the thing that you want to be doing most of the time, the thing just grows and as an extension of you. Like that to me is the purpose of business.
Yeah. Oh, that's good, man.
That is, man. But look, I'm going to take you back because I think I want to get back into this, but I want to go back to the story because we were just eating everything.
Yeah,
Like, give me. Let's go back, because now I want to go back to your college days. And so many so many kids out there right now, or young, kids that are in their 20s right now, they're coming out of college, need to hear what your story was, going through college and then moving forward from there.
Yeah. So my parents split when I was 12. And when they split, I kind of had this thought that I was, at least financially, on my own. And so there was from like age 12, 13 until I left for college, I was working 2-3 jobs at a time. I cleaned toilets at my church. I umpired in the summer. I had an after school job at Dunkin' Donuts like every day. Right. And I was doing all of these things sometimes at the same time. I waited tables at Friendly's. Shout out to anybody who knows what that restaurant is.
I do.
I do not.
I remember Friendly's. Yeah, I remember Friendly's.
So like that was 12 to 18 of managing odd jobs, multiple ones at a time. And I was going to school thinking I was going to be a pastor. And what I was diving into my youth group was really my solace when my family broke up, because I got kind of my meaning and my purpose from diving really deep into my youth group and into my church and into my faith at the time. And so I went to school thinking, all right, let's continue this. I'm going to be a pastor, maybe even a youth pastor. And at the time, pastors made like $30,000, $35,000 a year, full time. And I wanted a different way and still had this entrepreneurial bug. And so in college, I'm a declared Christian ministries major. Studying to think I'm going to be on staff at a church somewhere, secretly resenting the whole thing because I've got this internal drive that I really want to be an entrepreneur. But now I've bought into this belief that the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil.
Yep.
And I've bought into this idea that it's harder for the rich person to go through the eye of a needle.
Yep.
I just messed up the quote, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yep.
Then for a camel to go through the eye of a needle. Yeah.
Thank you. And that, by the way, that is the most misquoted passage. It's actually fascinating when you unpack both of those. Jesus is actually saying money can be a really good thing, but I've now got this internal conflict of, I feel like I need to go be a pastor because I think it's what God wants, but yet I also kind of really like money and I'm excited about the idea of being an entrepreneur, and I'm dealing with this tear in the middle of this. And I had this professor in college, her name was Dr. Constance Cherry, who said in front of an intro to pastoral ministries class, she says, listen, please catch this. If you can do anything else but go into the ministry and still be happy, please go do that other thing.
Wow, that's something.
It was like one of those moments in my life.
Right.
Wow.
Where she just gave me permission. If you can be happy doing something else, go do that. Because if you do not have a genuine call on your life to go do this, nothing will be harder. And I actually use that phrase when talking to entrepreneurs. Like, if there are other things you can do and still be happy, go do that other thing. This is a game of happiness, not a game of stacking cash. Now, stacking cash can be really fun, but when you think that that's your purpose and your meaning, you've lost the game. And so that was such a big moment for me of realizing it was okay for me to follow this internal desire of business and money and personal growth. And so I started my first business, if you could call it a business, my first profit streams from my dorm room in college, which ended up paying for college and allowing me to be a full-time entrepreneur as soon as I graduated.
What was that business?
So basically what I did was I learned search engine optimization, and I learned that you could build these tiny websites and get them to rank in Google. And so I had a few SEO clients, and I also built a few websites that just sold things from the free traffic that I was getting from Google. And I started doing things like consulting for other entrepreneurs or other companies that want, this was kind of a new thing, search engine optimization. Actually, I gave a presentation to this insurance company and ripped apart their SEO, and this 19-year-old kid is giving them advice, which they didn't like very much. And they didn't follow it. And I think they went out of business. So in college, I was just obsessed with internet marketing and search engine optimization, and that set the foundation for my life.
So that whole HTML, all that paid off.
Yeah, I was going to say that middle school class.
Thank you, 7th grade computer teacher. Yes.
So what year was that you started that? What year did you say?
I remember I registered my first domain, I think in June of 2006.
Okay. So what was June 2006? What was it like to market yourself in that realm? How did you get clients? What did you do to go about to market yourself?
Well, at first it was very humbling because I built these ugly hand-coded websites and with terrible content on them. And I'm coding them and like hand coded them on Dreamweaver on a dial-up computer. and so it was like super humbling at the beginning. And the strange thing is you look back on them now and those are your fondest memories.
Right.
But at the time it was like kind of embarrassing to kick things off in that way. But I remember when I took my first sale on a website, it was like, I made like $44.
But how good did that feel? Good night.
I literally danced in my living room. And so like last week I had a few students who launched their businesses and took like their first $27 sale, and living through them vicariously felt exactly like that feeling in 2006. That's awesome. Where, their profit margins are, they're making at this point, less than 50% profit. So it's not like all the $27 is theirs.
Right.
That feeling is like, it's the most validating thing that this is not just an idea in your head, but this is real life reality.
Yeah.
And you realize that there are other people on the other side of those transactions. And when you get that it's people making decisions and purchases rather than just some random thing going on in the computer, it is just the most exciting thing. And this thing gets real fun, real fast.
And there's something about it being yours too, right? That part of that is that excitement, because you could go and work for somebody, or at least this is my experience. You can go work for somebody and make a sale, your first sale ever.
Right.
And there's some excitement there, but there's something about it being yours, right?
Yes.
And it's all mine. And I made that sale. It's kind of like this podcast. I remember our first downloads.
It's
I'm
your
like,
podcast
I can't believe somebody actually listens. I was just like you, dancing in the middle of the living room. Like, I can't believe people actually listen.
And he
to this.
said that. I can't believe someone, but listen, I'll give you a little color on that. Ben is the podcast. He's the one that holds myself and Tyler, who's not here today, but he holds us accountable. Make sure we're here. He's booking the guest. He's doing all the work. So it's his baby. And now it's we're sort of pulling that off your hands a little bit to make it our baby as well. But as you can tell, like I remember the first time we started getting downloads, and this was 6 months ago when we first started. And it was like I could see it in his face to say, man, and it wasn't about the money. It was just about, we're making an impact.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because I didn't grow up like you. I actually grew up, my desire and my one focus was sports. I don't have an entrepreneurial bone in my body, or I didn't until I discovered this podcast, honestly. And it's for the first time I'm excited about something outside of the sports world. It's pretty fascinating, actually, to think about it.
Yeah, that growth, that idea of progress, that idea of something that you created impacting and touching somebody else.
Yeah.
And like you said, Ben, that idea of you own the ladder. Mm-hmm. You did the whole thing yourself. You're not climbing up somebody else's ladder. You own the ladder.
Oh, that's a good.
And now it's reaching other people. There's nothing more deliriously exciting.
That's a good analogy.
All right, so let's go back to college. All right, so now your teacher had that the professor had that conversation. Yeah. The light bulb came on. What happened after that?
I changed majors. That's what I did. And honestly, this is one of my regrets in life, is that I changed majors. Because I'm like, okay, I really don't think I want to be a pastor. Mm-hmm. So I already own a business. I like business. I might as well study business. And what I discovered, I think having a business administration degree is, it would be great during COVID because it can act as toilet paper. Mm. But apart from that, it's the most worthless piece of paper.
Wow. See, you say that, man. that is amazing. Oh, that is amazing. Because, what are we seeing in today's world? We're seeing kids spend thousands and thousands of dollars and not only spending money, but, creating debt.
Yeah.
To suffer. Yeah. For what?
Now, the one thing it did for me was it forced me to take a few economics classes, and I ended up minoring in economics, and nothing, I don't think, made me a more educated person at looking at the world and how it works and how we make decisions and policy impacts on businesses and on the economy, and the role that entrepreneurs play in creating a bigger pie. Not just getting more of the pie, not just getting rich, but actually expanding the amount of resources and money that exists in the system. Like when you start a business, you create an expanded economy that opens up new opportunities for other people.
Right.
I think that if I hadn't studied that, if I hadn't had that realization, I still would have had this internal conflict that I had from the church of struggling between this desire for money, but also wanting to do good and thinking they were opposite. And so really learning about economics showed me that when you make money, it expands the pie. Right. It creates new things. It expands resources. It actually helps other people. It's the fastest way to do service to other people is for you to do well yourself. So I'm thankful for that realization that came from studying economics, but the business administration degree itself, I think, is a waste of time, not only because it's putting people into debt for what, but also because most of what's being taught in universities and colleges and business programs is about a very old way of doing business that is no longer necessary. The opportunities that exist for us now have made obsolete the businesses of the past. And the things that I know, that you know as a podcaster, and the relationships we have as a result of the things that we do are ahead of the curve compared to most big businesses. I tell the story. Like if you are 30 or under and you have a good grasp of social media and you're used to that being part of your life, you are ahead of most companies. It's why there are so many big companies who are buying up businesses that are started by 21-year-olds that are just excited about something to release in the world, because big companies can't keep up with the changes that are happening in the marketplace due to the internet and the new opportunities that are coming there. And so I just think that we're doing a disservice teaching this old way of structured business when we actually are moving past that as a result of the opportunities that we have now.
So are you going as far as telling young kids, so say I'm an 18, 19-year-old, listen to this, are you going as far as saying, hey, college isn't the right, I mean, obviously it's individual, but if you were going to speak in generalities, what's the alternative in your opinion?
Well, I get this question often from kids who are in college. And the first thing I tell them is, look, I have a great life. I have nothing to complain about. I'd give it all up for one more year at college. Mm-hmm. So if you want to go to college, stay in college. It's some of the best time of your life.
Right.
But please just study something that you like.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to lead to a career. You don't have to study something that you're going to make a career out of, although it can be, because you make a career out of anything. Please study something that you like, because what you like goes back to that point that we've been hammering home. If you have an impulse for something that genuinely interests you, the marketplace gets behind that and opens up opportunities for you to stay in that zone. Like the state of capitalism that we're in now is that there's so much money and opportunity in the system that the biggest scarce resource we have is people who are genuinely excited enough to pursue something. And there's enough money and opportunity in the system to get behind that, to support that person, to where if they've got something that really lights them up and excites them and that may become a passion for them, there are opportunities for them to do that full time. So please do that.
That's such a good perspective, because you know, it's the glass half empty thought process, because you can look at the marketplace and think, man, it's crowded, it's saturated. But you just said the opposite there. No, what we're actually lacking is people who have that passion, that desire to pursue.
Yes.
Man, that's good.
You don't want to take that away.
And the marketplace is a great reflection of where we have needs. My economics teacher used to say, so many of you are wondering, what's God's plan for my life? What's my purpose? And he's like, God gave you the marketplace. Look at where there's money and go after that. That's the sign that there's need in the world.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's anything wrong with going into the marketplace in the pursuit of money. I think it's a great filter for where there's need. But there's also need, even more need, for people to be so jazzed up about something that then they see the problems that exist in that area of interest. And that creates opportunities for them to both be excited about what they're doing and make a lot of money.
Oh, that's good. So you changed your major, and let's fast forward. What was your life like after college? What did you do? Where'd you go from there?
Really lonely. So my hardest years of my life were the ones after college. So I graduated. I had this cool business that I'm, making 6 figures a year. I moved back to Ohio. I moved into a really sweet lakefront apartment, and I had no idea what to do. And so I know I don't have to go find a job, but that also means I'm not going in to see people every day. And so I found myself in this very confusing period of life of, I know how to make money. I have nothing that excites me. And now I'm bored and alone at a computer in my beautiful apartment. What the heck am I doing with my life? And this was the big crisis of meaning, the big crisis of faith, the dark night of the soul, as we sometimes call it, where I got what I thought I wanted, which was the freedom that money gives me. And now I have no idea what to do with this freedom.
Hey, wanted to take a quick break from the episode to thank our sponsor, Tito's Handmade Vodka. Tito's Handmade Vodka is distilled from corn and certified gluten-free. In the mid-90s, Tito Beverage, that's his real name, Tito Beverage, built his very own micro distillery in Austin, Texas, incorporating the boutique winery concept into the spirits industry. He acquired the first legal permit to distill in Texas and put his life savings into it, racking up 19 credit cards to build his own copper pot stills and condensers. He continues to produce award-winning smooth American vodka on the same land where it all started, over 20 years later. Tito's has won the unanimous Judges' Choice double gold medal at the World Spirits Competition, among other awards. It's got a modest paper label on a sipper bottle, so all you pay for is the exceptional vodka inside. Visit us at titosvodka.com for recipes, videos, and more for the Tito's story. Crafted to be savored responsibly.
Oh my goodness. That is a concept I'm arm wrestling daily, because it's such a hard concept to grasp if you don't have money, that money's not going to fix everything for you. And it's like, oh, well, that's easy for you to say. You've got money.
Right.
But when you do get it and it's not what you thought it was going to be because you're not doing the things that you want to be doing to make that money, it is very, very lonely and empty feeling. That's a great way to describe it.
And it's that idea of the money is the route to something that you truly desire. It's why pursuit of money is fine, but what we really want is something that the money gives us.
Mm-hmm.
And I had never considered this, Ben. I had never considered the idea that, well, what happens? What do I want to do once I get this money that I've wanted since I was 11, 12, 13 years old?
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a heavy question.
Yeah.
And I had no idea. And that was about 3 years of depression, loneliness, and really probably the hardest time of my life.
So what did you end up doing then? I mean, did you meet someone? Was there a mentor? Did you follow along that path? And what was the next steps for you?
Yeah, it's funny because I've never put the pieces together backwards from there, but it was a big moment for me when I met who is now my best friend. His name is Mark Jenny, who served as like a mentor, brother figure to me and became like my first really deep friendship. And he was going through some of that himself as well on kind of a bigger scale where he had 100 employees at the time. He had a really profitable business at the time and was now experiencing the same thing of like, man, ever since I was a kid, I wanted to make a lot of money. What do we do with this? And there's really no clear answer to it except to go back to what interests you and excites you. And there's like no clear answer that's like waiting to be found.
Right.
It is tasting and trying different things, visiting different cities. I filled that hole for a while with just travel, with just seeing different cities and different countries and different cultures and different foods and the way that people lived, of just tasting these little cultures and these different ways of living your life. And that opened up the opportunity for me when I was 26 to put everything that I owned into my Kia Sportage, my 2013 orange Kia Sportage.
Nice.
And that was a sweet car. Had heated and cool seats.
Oh man, brother, you were spending that money right.
And put everything I owned into this car, drove to Austin, Texas, and I never left.
Wow.
And so that ended up opening the next chapter of my life of just being willing to follow that impulse and to pursue where my interests lead me. Now, here's the good news and the bad news to all of this is that there really is no passion or thing or purpose to find outside of ourselves. So even if you've got one now, there's a good chance at some point you get bored with it.
Right.
There's a business right now that you might love that after a while you no longer want to run or pursue. It's a growth process. And each time you kind of go through one of those cycles, it just gives you a different perspective from which to pursue next. We're actually after the pursuit, that interested, immersed feeling. And I had a mentor here in Austin who said, when you're going through one of those periods where you're no longer passionate, where you're no longer interested, your best friend is boredom. Bored enough to allow that next impulse, that next interest to come about is what your brain and your body needs to be able to see and find that. But what do most of us do? Scroll on social media to avoid the boredom, to overeat, to get rid of the boredom, to consume information, hoping that we're going to find something. And we never let ourselves reset to be able to see what else we're naturally drawn to. But that's the unlock. That's the unlock that creates the next set of opportunities.
Yeah, that's where creatives start to come in, is when you're bored and you don't have anything right in front of you, and then it comes to you. There, I want to go back to it because I have one question. I know you want to go there.
I was just going to feed off that point.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
So I'm going to change the scope again, all over again. You made mention of something. You said, I know how to make money. And that stuck with me because, again, I'm an inner city kid. I didn't know how to make money. No one around me was making money. I mean, to me, it was, I don't know how to make money. And I don't know anybody else around me. So, I mean, that is huge to say that, because to you, I mean, in the way you said it, it was so casual. I know how to make money. 98% of this country and the people in this country don't know how to make money. So I want you to stick along that way. Tell me, how do you make money? If there's a process, and I can see it in your face. There's a process that you have to making money.
So to your point, you're absolutely right. And that was my thought, my dominating thought from age 11 to about age 18 is, how do people make money? Like, how does this person get wealth? I was obsessed with the how. I was obsessed with reverse engineering it. I mean, a lot of my content today is talking about that question just because I want to take it off the table. It's like, once you know how, once you know that there's a way, all of a sudden it's not a mystery anymore. But what you find out is that the real game is doing what excites you. Making money is having something that other people want to pay for. That's how you make money. But how do you develop something that other people want to pay for? The way you develop something that other people want to pay for is having some sort of a understanding of what the person wants or needs, and having the resources to make that available. So like most of my students develop physical product brands. That's how I made about 60% of my wealth. I had a couple business that I started with a few hundred or a few $1,000s, grew them and sold them, had nice paydays from those. And I always tell people that when you're starting something, the unlock to really having a successful business or successful venture is to know the person who is going to be paying for whatever it is that you've got. Not even to know what it is that you want to sell, not even knowing how much you're going to charge. It's just being so clear in who it is that is going to be your customer. So we could take this in like the line of us talking right now. I know the two of you are podcasters. And so let's just say that my market's podcasters. What's the biggest challenge that podcasters have said that they face? Well, Ben has already said that at the very beginning, he didn't know if people were going to listen. Right. And he was so excited about the fact that there were people downloading it and that their lives were being touched that it gave him the fuel to be able to start something. So the biggest challenge that I know Ben had when he started this podcast was, are people even going to listen? Right. How do I grow this thing? How do I do this in a way that other people are going to want to tell other people about this podcast until my downloads go up over and over and over, up and up, month over month? Well, if I know that I can find the resources to make that happen, then there are opportunities for all kinds of things to sell to that exact market. So the real unlock is knowing the person so well. And I don't care who you pick. You can pick any person in the world and you can identify what have they purchased over the last month that is in alignment with something that they want. I mean, you can pick a CrossFitter and say, okay, what has that person bought over the last month on their journey? And they probably bought bands, they bought a gym membership, they've changed their diet, they bought recovery drinks, they bought supplements, they bought all kinds of stuff over the last month for that specific journey. The easiest way to find this is to pick someone who has started some sort of a new journey. They started something new. So Ben started a new podcast at one time, and he had these things he started researching and these things that he bought in order to go on this journey. Well, where did he buy them? Where did he pursue them? What challenges did he have along the way? And that comes down to just asking questions. And the beautiful thing about today is you can find any market just about anywhere on the internet through forums and Reddits and social media and through other people's podcasts and through YouTube videos. And you can find what people who are starting CrossFit, starting to lose weight, starting a new business, starting a podcast, who are retiring, who are successful NFL players, who are now looking for new opportunities. You can find any group of people and see what challenges they're having along the way. And it's your job to then go answer those challenges with opportunities for them to pay you. That's how you make money.
Man, I've honestly, like, I'm 33 as well. I've never heard it simplified that well. That's good. That's really good. So if it's that quote unquote simple, it's not, it's difficult. I guess it's a simple concept, but it's hard to maybe execute. What is people's objection there? What is the most, because I think from me, like maybe the lack of creativity perhaps is a problem. What do you find with young people who are wanting to pursue something? What's their biggest hang up typically?
I don't know how, but that sounds like it takes time. And you're absolutely right. Nobody knows what they're doing at the beginning. You don't know how. Your job is to find the resources that other people can answer that question. And you're right, it takes time. I say, like, one of the chapters of my book is you're going to eat blank for a year. Like, for the first year, you're just going to eat it. Right. You're going to make nothing. You're going to take home nothing. It's going to feel like nothing's working. It's going to feel like there's no progress. And then all of a sudden there's going to be progress. I tell some of the people that I work with, for about 6 months, it's going to feel like nothing's happening. And then all of a sudden you're going to take a sale and you're like, what? Wait, I just made $27. I didn't really make $27, but I sold 27. And you're going to see all of a sudden that there's something's popping.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And then it's going to become 10 sales. And your job right now is to not think about 100 sales, is to think about those 10 people who just trusted you with their $27, and you're going to go love on them so much that they have the most amazing experience and they tell everybody they know, and they give you fantastic reviews and fantastic testimonials. Yeah. And now guess what is going to happen? You're going to have 10 reviews and testimonials, which is going to bring 100 new people. And you've got to stay thinking that small until your business is 7 figures. And now your job is to bring in resources and people who can help grow and sustain that. So it does take time, and it requires you to be real humble.
Yes.
So unbelievably humble enough to ask questions, humble enough to seek help, humble enough to not pay yourself for a while, humble enough to listen to your customer, humble enough to ask what's working for them and to take yourself out of that equation.
Yeah. Right.
And when you're that humble and actually in service to the other person, money shows up. Mm. It's this strange paradox where if you're trying to extract money, it eludes you. It runs from you. It doesn't want to be extracted. But when you are providing it, despite what you are getting out of it, all of a sudden money just starts to flow your way.
So true. Look, man, you're speaking. Look, I started I'm a founder of a software company called Counterfine, and what we do is we eliminate counterfeit merchandise on social media platforms. So Beautiful. 3 years ago, being the founder of this company, I was on fire. Like, everyone's going to need our service right now because there's so much, chaos going on Amazon and on Facebook and blah, blah, blah. And we need to be taking down these pirates out there, whatever. I did all this, that was the whole deal. And I knew that we had something. And then we got punched in the face. Mm-hmm. And then we got punched in the face again. Mm-hmm. And the joy got sucked out of me, kind of. It was sort of like, wait a minute. I had the best idea ever. And everyone around me told me I had the best idea. Now I got to run a business. And through business, you get your ass kicked.
A lot.
And you just said it. That first year for me was, this is not enjoyable. I'd rather go back and get smashed on the football field than have to deal with what I'm dealing with. Because I wasn't just dealing with self. I was dealing with other people as well. And having to rally the troops at the same time. So it's not, the experience that you just said, the humbling experience that you have to be willing to be humbled and go through that process and treat it as such a process. But Ben always says this, one thing we always talk about on the show, sometimes through that process, I didn't enjoy the journey. And it wasn't until I took my hands off of it just a little bit and allowed the company to run. And it took off. Mm-hmm. It just took off. And then there was the joy. There was the enjoyment of, I took my hands off, and it wasn't about so much making money. It was just enjoy what you're doing at the time. And then it finally opened up for us.
That's exactly it. I have nothing to add. Well done.
Yeah.
Well, drop the mic.
Drop the mic, bro.
Another element that we haven't mentioned, but it's an obvious one, is comparisonitis, I call it. Woo. Looking at what others have. That are, you said it a bit earlier, you feel like you're still behind at 33, but that's what, I look at other podcasts, they have all these downloads and they have all these sponsors and they're doing so well. And you forget, these things take time. But for me, that's my biggest issue, is looking outside of my bubble, looking at what everybody else has. So
at the beginning of this conversation, we talked about this idea of, Darren, you said, I'm a person who has been wired to pursue money, mm-hmm. to pursue wealth. And I said to you that I believe, I love money, but it's the route to something else that we want. Mm-hmm. Biggest mistake we make is taking score through the points on the board as measured by money.
That's me.
Thinking that money is the thing we actually want.
Right.
Because like the truth is, Ben, if we weren't allowed to keep score through money and we could only measure how much we were enjoying the process, the weird thing of that is you have no idea how much Joe Rogan is enjoying his podcast.
Right.
You have no idea how somebody else is measuring how good of a time they're having. You can only measure yours. So if that was the only way that we kept score, you would probably feel pretty good about your progress.
Yeah.
You would think about those times where you were literally dancing in your living room, thinking about how your show was impacting people. And it just so happens that if you can stay in that mode, we go back to that thing where money and opportunities just start to come our way. They just start to flow to us. And if they don't, we're somehow okay with it because we're still enjoying the process. That focus eliminates the comparison trap. Because the minute that you start taking score based on what other people are publicly putting on the scoreboard, and now you're looking at your own scoreboard that you didn't have before, and you think you have to make one up to compare to theirs, and all of a sudden it doesn't look as good. But you have no idea what is actually going on in their experience of the project, their experience of the business compared to yours. So the only thing that we can optimize for is our own enjoyment of that business.
Yeah, he's looking at me like, damn, where were you, Ryan? Yeah, where have you been?
And Ben, like, would you tell me, I mean, is that true? That comparison trap only happens when you start looking at other people's scoreboard?
1000% true. Not even, I mean, because it's, and that's what I've tried to learn in my older years. I'm still somewhat younger than you, Darren, but is that enjoyment of the journey and the enjoyment of the process. Right. Because you're right. If you measure it off of that, this has been the greatest past 9 months of my life, honestly. Yes. Because I've been so consumed, and it's honestly, it's that same passion I had as a kid pursuing the sports dream. I finally reignited that, and it's amazing. And to your point, it's like, yeah, I can look at other people and I can think about what they have that I don't yet, but why not focus on the enjoyment that I've experienced these last 9 months? Yeah,
it's it. And the trap here is that when we make that comparison, like if we talk about Rogan and him getting $100 million from Spotify for a podcast, and all of a sudden we take score of that, we start to mimic their style and mimic the types of interviews he does. We start to mimic the show length that he does. He says, well, Rogan does 3-hour podcasts. Maybe we should do 3-hour podcasts.
Right.
But the truth is, Joe did what Joe wanted to do. And because it was what he wanted to do, he had the excitement and the passion to keep doing it for long enough for him to cross that threshold and that barrier to entry to where he built the audience. And so if you're a podcaster, or if you're starting a new business, it's the same unlock for you. It's not to look at what other people put on the scoreboard, because the scoreboard is usually a reflection of how much they allowed their own selves to be expressed through the process. So our job when we're starting something new is to be able to do it in a way that allows us to be in that zone of genius for most of the time. And then do that, and everything else is added onto you as well.
Right. Speaking to my heart, dude.
Yeah. Hey, I got to go back to something real quick. And I read a little bit about, just in doing our research, the mind of a capitalist. You have the mind of a capitalist. Give us, that mindset of how you approach and why you're so adamant about that type of language. It's like you are proud to be a capitalist. Give us in depth what that looks like for you.
I think the fundamental understanding of a capitalist and of capitalism is that there's an infinite pie. There are infinite resources. There is no such thing as scarcity, meaning that you winning does not take away from my ability to win. It actually enhances it. Your ability to win and to go get rich and to create new things opens up new opportunities for me that did not exist before you were successful. Man. And when you know that, you get to just cheer for everybody, because you realize that all of our jobs as capitalists is to multiply resources. It's to expand the pie. It is to create new opportunities. It's to solve new challenges. And that when one set of challenges is solved, guess what? A new group of challenges arises. Fossil fuels were the greatest breakthrough in mankind history. It's the reason why we are able to have so many people on the planet and to have so much cheap energy. And guess what it did? Opens up a new set of challenges. Challenges like pollution, and we might run out of them one day. And that challenge opens up the new pursuit of things like clean energy and solar power, which is going to do even more than fossil fuels did. Never would have got there had we not had fossil fuels in the middle. That's just one example of there being an increase of resources, an increase of opportunities that creates a new set of challenges. And those new set of challenges are rewarded financially when they're solved. That's why Elon Musk is now the richest person in the world. So because of fossil fuels, Elon gets to create new stuff and create new billions, maybe trillions of dollars. And so our job as capitalists, as entrepreneurs, is to keep expanding that pie, is to keep pursuing new resources, to keep creating new opportunities. And everyone in the aggregate benefits, everyone. That's what creates the rising tide. That's what allows for new problems to be solved. That's what allows for new resources to be available to everybody. That's what a capitalist is. So this idea that it's dog eat dog, and by you winning, you take from somebody else, is the most outdated, old hat belief that is still active in our society. It was never true. It's not true. And the opposite is true. The more somebody else wins, the more that exists and is possible for you.
Absolutely. Amen. Okay, now government. What is the role of government?
Oh boy. Here we go.
Let's go. I definitely want.
Let's go.
You're speaking our language, brother. You're all in. Keep going. Amen. Preach, preacher.
Look, I think that the role of government is to protect individuals' liberty and freedom. We have the idea right now that government's job is to solve most of our problems. That when there's a problem, the fastest way to do that is government. But what government actually does is it freezes things. It holds the line. So an example of this is, you talk about the Green New Deal. I think it's a good idea for us to be focusing on green energy, for us to be making it a priority in our society. But the minute that the government gets involved and does things like subsidize green energy, all of a sudden we freeze the technology that we have right now and puts it everywhere and slows down long-term progress. Yes, it would take what we have right now that's available to us and to put it into the marketplace. It'd be expensive to do so because the cost of goods are still really high. Government can't drive down costs, and it can't create new things because it only can take from individual freedom to be able to do that. And so it has the ability to hold the line, to freeze things, to put the best that we have available. Problem is that the marketplace, individuals, free people, innovate much faster than government can. So we're creating new things and driving down costs way faster than the government can. So by the time that we've implemented something like putting green energy everywhere in the country, we've already surpassed that technology. And now the marketplace has won. And it can't now get into people's hands because the government has held the line. It's frozen.
Right.
So my opinion is that government gets in the way more than it helps. And the purpose of government is to be able to protect individual freedom so that we're all able to serve one another. Purpose of money, purpose of wealth, purpose of business is to fund and sustain service to one another. We're recording this podcast on Zoom right now. No, we don't think about the founder of Zoom when we're doing this. Right. We don't say, thank you, Lord, for the founder of Zoom. It's just here and available to us. And as a result of this technology, we're able to record something that hopefully touches somebody else's life. Yep. And as a result of that, might inspire someone to start a business and take $1,000 and to start a new business and to create something that makes them wealthy and serves a lot of people. And we might not even ever hear from that person. But because of the founder of Zoom, we're able to do this, inspires one person to start a new business. And they did it and launched it on Amazon. Thank you, Jeff Bezos. Right. That's the purpose of the marketplace. That's the purpose of capitalism, for us to be able to create opportunities that serve one another, for us to be able to invest in projects that make the world better, that open up new things, that solve problems for each other. But when we outsource that to government, we actually slow it down because we've removed the incentives that make it exciting for us to serve one another. The world is literally stacked for us to be happy and in service to one another. We get excited when there's growth. We feel love for one another. We have dopamine kicks when we make new money and solve a new challenge. We're literally wired to be happy and to serve one another. My opinion is government slows that down.
Absolutely.
Because it allocates against our choice resources that a few people decide is best. So the role of government is to protect us from taking away each other's liberties, from harming one another in a way that takes away from our freedom, because the fastest way we serve one another is to be free people and to be wired to serve one another.
Amen.
Yeah. And hey, we're not a political show at all, but I am curious the way we're headed, and in your opinion, what does it look like? What does the future look like in your opinion if we keep going down the path that we're headed?
I'm very excited. I am immensely optimistic. I think we are on the cusp of more abundance than we've ever seen. And I do not fear the rising demand for more socialism. I don't fear it one bit, because I know it doesn't work.
Right.
Because the only thing that will do, if somebody that I don't like gets elected and makes decisions and tax rates go up and we fund more clunky programs, is that we'll fail bigger and go, you know what, that didn't work. Let's move on.
That's right.
Better system.
So true.
Right. So I don't fear it one bit, because I know how this plays out. I know that freedom works. I know that capitalism solves problems. I know that individuals solve challenges better than collective governments do. And so if we go the opposite direction, it'll be like we bumped up against a wall, hit our head, and say, maybe we don't run into that wall anymore. And instead we go into the other direction. It looks a lot like more freedom and opportunity. Plus, there are so many things happening in the marketplace that are making governments obsolete.
Yeah.
They're just eliminating the need for government programs. Look at what has happened to the reputation and the brand of college over the last year. Like you have Ivy League schools trying to charge full price admission for online college. And did anybody think college was working before all of this? Did anybody look at this situation and say, you know what's really working? Putting kids in debt and telling them to have it.
That's right. So true, man.
Right. So, but government got in and incentivized all of this and tried to make it possible for these kids. Like their hearts are in the right place. They just messed up the whole system, and we're realizing, you know what? I don't think this works. I think we need a different system. And that is going to happen across the board with a lot of things that we consider sacred cows. So I'm really excited about the future of the country, the future of the world. I think we are just on the cusp of more freedom, abundance, and capitalism that we have ever seen.
Man, I love the confidence. I love the optimism.
Dude,
because
Brother Ryan is bringing the funk today.
He went back to school.
I feel like I'm back in Maryville in the front pew, just clapping along, baby.
Man.
I did become a pastor, Ben.
Yeah, I was gonna say you keep on preaching, man. Keep on preaching.
So Ryan, what's next? And we know time is not on our side here on the show, but what's next for you right now?
Yeah, right now I'm really enjoying helping young entrepreneurs. I'm really enjoying watching that passion of some of my students have their first sale and dancing around their living room. Because I know that changes not just a life, but an entire generation. Like there are people who have built companies and sold them for 8 figures, more than $10 million, that were young kids, 22, 23, fresh out of college. And like their whole family's changed now. And it's like one more step in creating more freedom in the world.
That's right.
I am really enjoying just creating content from this inspired place of just like speaking to what I believe is happening in the world and encouraging those who had that same conflict that I had of like, do I go in the direction of being an entrepreneur? Like, is it okay for me to want to be rich? We say, yes, is the best thing that you can do for the world. And like that to me is my message, is showing people that capitalism is a really good thing.
Yeah. And
you being successful is a great gift that you can give to the rest of the world. And helping people take one step towards that direction is a thing that makes me more excited than anything.
Man, that's awesome. So other than buying your book, which is 12 months to 1 million, is that the only book you've written? Have you written more?
It's the only one. One day
Okay.
I'll write a book called Losing My Religion, which will be about faith and that journey.
Yeah.
But right now, probably the best, like the most affordable and the most complete way that I can serve somebody is them, grabbing the book.
Yep.
If you want to get it from the library or torrent it, I don't care. Just read it.
Yeah.
If you're the type of entrepreneur who wants to do this, go find a copy. That's probably the best way that I could serve somebody. And my podcast is called capitalism.com.
Okay. Well, that's what I was going to say. So other than reading your book, listening to your podcast, and maybe even hiring you as a consultant, what advice do you give to young entrepreneurs? What's just something general, just kind of as a first step encouragement that you could tell people?
It's so cliche, but like it's the thing that I tell almost everyone. Like your life and your business changes when you realize that it is first all about the customer, all about the person. The faster you can be unselfish, the faster you get everything you selfishly want. And number two, marrying that with the thing that truly makes you happy. Like doing the thing that you actually want to be doing once you get the money. If you can actually answer the question of what do I want to do with my time once I make the money, and you can do it in a way that puts the entire spotlight on the person you want to serve, your life and your bank account gets real good real quick. And like 80% of the work that I do is getting people to not do things that don't fulfill those two requirements. It's like TikTok just came out. Should I put a lot of attention to that? Is that what you want to be doing with your time when you're rich? No, probably not. Probably not. Can you do TikTok in a way that serves your person that you want to serve? I don't think so. You're 0 for 2 on this one. Right. So no, you probably shouldn't learn how to do a bunch of TikTok videos.
Yeah.
And so it's 80% just telling them not to do those things and to put all of their time and energy in just serving the people they want to serve in the way that they genuinely can serve.
Man, that's a great lens to look it through. So we've got one final question. We ask every guest this, but before I get to that, where can people find you? How can we connect with you?
Capitalism.com is my podcast. My YouTube channel is my own name, Ryan Moran. That's actually where I'm putting the majority of my content right now. And then, of course, my book can be found on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Audible, the library, and it's called 12 Months to 1 Million.
Okay, wait, before he asks that question, you mentioned students.
Yeah.
You've mentioned students.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. Yeah.
What type of students? Are you teaching a class or are you just mentoring young entrepreneurs?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So capitalism.com basically has two products. We have a mentoring group, which is called the 1%, and 99% of businesses never cross $1 million. So I started a group to help people become part of the 1%, the 1% of people who have $1 million businesses. And that's where my team and I do one-on-ones with people. We do broadcasts and we have trainings in there that are helping people specifically build $1 million businesses and invest the profits for long-term wealth. And that's capitalism.com/1. And then the other product that we have is an incubator. It's called the Capitalism Incubator. And that's where I personally and some of my resources actually come in and help people cast a vision for businesses and help people dial in, okay, what is the business that I want to bring to the world? How do I create relationships and partnerships with people who can execute this for me? So I stay in the owner's chair and the capitalist chair, and I'm not in there doing all of the grunt work that doesn't make me excited.
Right.
And so we bring in relationships with agencies and other partnerships that can allow you to stay in the owner's chair. And then also have enough funding and capital to be able to build out the business that you want. So we have a fund at capitalism.com that invests in our students, that invests in exciting projects. And we also have relationships with investors who are looking for businesses to fund. And so once they dial in their vision and they have a team that can support them, which is usually outside resources that we recommend, then we have the investors there that are willing to put up the money to help kick off that business off the ground. And then we mentor them for a year to be able to build a 7-figure business that they can sell.
That's awesome.
So that's our incubator. It's called the Capitalism Incubator, and that's at capitalism.com/inc, INC.
Maybe a dumb question, but are you specializing in physical products, services, or both?
As like right now, as I answer this question today, we're opening up a round that is it's like 80% focused on physical product brands because that's what we know best. Throughout 2021, our goal is actually to be able to broaden that to be able to cover all businesses. Because the process is the same of casting a great vision, ensuring that you've got a great team in place, and having enough capital to be able to carry out your obligations. It's the formula to win regardless of what business you're in.
Right.
So we'll be widening that net. But as of right now, our focus is doing such a good job for the students that are coming in that we now have the reputation to be able to take it to other markets as well.
Yeah.
Is there an age limit on that?
You know, funny you should ask. So
I've got a 4-year-old. Are you working with 4-year-olds by any chance?
Yeah. I've got an 18-year-old student who just launched his business last week and took his first $2,000 in sales. We're so pumped for him. His name is Kirthan. Super jazzed for him. And then I've got a few students in their late 60s. So I guess 16 might be the minimum unless you've got a parental advisor.
Yeah. Well, that's something we didn't touch on it, and we don't have to go too far down the rabbit hole. But the thought of, I'm too old. I'm past my window to be able to do this.
Ben, I'm so fascinated with an author that's named Trevor Blake. And Trevor did not start his first business until he was 43. And maybe it was 45, early 40s. And then in 10 years, his first 10 years, he had 3 business exits for a total of $300 million.
Wow.
Today, he's in his 60s, and he's still starting new businesses and doing it under a similar model of casting a vision, bringing in a team, raising the money. And he works 3 to 5 hours a day, goes for 2-hour hikes in the woods with his dogs, lives a super calm lifestyle, has sold businesses worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And I'm just fascinated by his approach to start late and to still, at his age, be starting new things and be really confident in it.
That's right.
So there is hope for you, Darren.
Yeah,
Good.
I can do this. I can do this.
All right. Well, 1 or 2 things I'm going to do after this episode for sure is I'm going to go to Amazon. I'm going to buy your book.
Yep.
And then we're also going to go to capitalism.com and check out the website. So
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Last question. This is the banger we like to ask everybody. Well, hold on. Sorry. We've got a producer that is actually Darren's son.
Who's going to be on the website today signing up for the class. That's for sure.
Awesome.
He's got a question for you.
Welcome.
All right.
How you doing, sir?
Hey, man, what's your name?
DJ Woodson.
What's up, DJ? Good to meet you.
Man, good to hear you too, or good to meet you too, man. This is probably my favorite podcast so far. I mean,
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm a beginning entrepreneur, and I just have one question, man. It's more of a personal question. When you started out, or when you were, when you started out, did you listen to the outside noise? I really I do content. My business all circulates around content and creating content. I'm trying to start like a building for that for kids, and I really know my business. I really feel like I know just the ins and outs and everything through my research, but I kind of, I get handicapped sometimes because I really do listen to outside noise. And I just wanted to see how you handle that.
DJ, I learned by making mistakes. And that means like running 30 miles an hour into a wall saying, man, that hurt, and then running in the other direction. And one of the things that I learned is like, I love Gary Vaynerchuk. Like I've met him several times. I think he's a saint of a human being. He's like even better in person than you see publicly. He's just a genuine, amazing person. But when I make content like him, it sucks. Mm-hmm. Like when I try to edit my content in a way that I see him preaching and doing, I just look like another Gary V. Yeah. And my audience feels that. And they don't like it because they can get the same thing from Gary V.
Exactly.
The more advice that I take from other people who are creating content, the worse my content is. Mm-hmm. The truth is the marketplace values uniqueness. It values things that are different. It values things that can help individuals in a way that they haven't seen before. And so listening to the noise or copying other people can be a great short-term strategy for somebody who has no idea what to do. Mm-hmm. A good story of this. We read this story in college about 2 groups that were put to a test where they were put into the woods and they were timed to see how fast they could get to their target destination. To one group, they gave no map. To the other group, they gave them a map, but it was a wrong map. They gave them like a map to a different location. And say timed, okay, which one of these is going to get out of the woods faster? And what they found was that the team with the wrong map made it out faster than the teams that were given no direction at all. And the reason for that was because the teams who had direction collaborated, made decisions, and went and they course corrected along the way. Whereas the team with no idea, they sat there coming up with a strategy. They sat there with no idea what to do, and they froze, essentially. So listening to the noise, listening to other people's opinions is great for that starting entrepreneur who has no idea what to do and they just need to start doing stuff. But once you know your stuff, like you say that you do, the marketplace values your unique spin on what it desires. And when you've got that, you are the noise. Like you're the market leader now. So listening to other people puts you behind. So my advice to you is to shut out the noise and keep doing your thing. And eventually they start copying you and talking about you rather than the opposite.
Ooh. Thank you so much, sir.
It's good stuff. That's good stuff.
Man.
All right, last question.
To me, DJ.
That was good. Last question. All right, you can go back to any point in your life and you can tell yourself one thing. Doesn't mean you go necessarily change anything, but you can go back and just tell yourself one thing. Where do you go and what do you tell yourself?
Go to the 13-year-old kid who used to come into an empty house after school, after my mom had to go back to work and my dad was off living his life and my brother was playing football after school and I was suddenly alone where I was used to being with my family. And I would look at the kid who was trying to find purpose and feeling lost and feeling alone. And I would look at him and I'd say, the challenges that you're going through now are going to end up being the greatest gift that you get to the rest of the world. Yeah. So do not sweat this hard season of life, because as a result of getting through it, you will be a better man, a bigger contributor, and a greater server to humanity as a result of you doing this good work.
So good.
Man, Ryan, we appreciate you, brother.
Yeah.
This is a blast. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. This was enlightening in so many ways. And again, I can't wait to read the book because I know it's just going to bring that much more awesome value.
Yeah, well, we'll be on the website today. My family will be on the website today, brother. You're going to have another
DJ reach out to me.
Absolutely. He will be reaching out to you today. So, Ryan, we appreciate your time, man. You've brought so much value to not only us personally, but to our listeners as well, man. So we appreciate
Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, when you're in Dallas, let us know.
Yep.
I'm 3 hours south. I'll come your way.
Yeah, we'd love to have you in person next time and get off this Zoom call. So
sounds great. I'll do it. Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, brother.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan.